Hey guys, it's Tahira, and this is every single book I read in 2024 reviewed in one sentence and giving you their ratings. I know that it is already like more than halfway through January. I swear this is the last of my like end of year content, but this is a thing I have seen around booktube where people have been reviewing the books that they read in the last year in like a few sentences, and I wanted to make it a little bit more challenging and trying to review every single book in just one sentence. So that is what I'll be doing today. But without further ado, here's every single book I read in 2024 in one sentence. A dual timeline book where the past was actually good, but the present was just adults acting like teenagers. 3 stars. A middle school reread that surprisingly held up. 4 stars. A dark romance that scarred me for life. 1 star. Another middle school era reread that was surprisingly worse than I expected and just did not hold up. 2 stars. A stepfather and stepbrother / cousin romance that also scarred me for life. 1 star. A high school era reread that had a whimsical and fun plot and is surprisingly held up for me. 4 stars. A read that surprisingly showed all of the ways that her writing has improved over time, but was still a fun reread for me, of course. 4 stars. A boring YA romance that I honestly can't even remember anything about. 3 stars. A sequel that actually did hold up but was very formulaic in its plot and its structure. 3 stars. A heartwarming story with gorgeous writing and a thought-provoking plot that I still think about sometimes, and it's one of my favorites. 5 stars. An extremely anticipated but disappointing book for me where the plot was pushed to the side and the romance went from 0 to 100 in literally 30 seconds. 3 stars. Another highly anticipated book but that was ultimately disappointing and just felt like the author was venting about Twitter discourse. 2.75 stars. A really gorgeously written book with a really great gothic atmosphere, but I literally could not tell you a single thing about this book and I don't remember anything. 2 stars. A surprisingly heartwarming story about this cutie pie alien named Rocky and a mission to save the planet. 4 stars. A cozy mystery book with a found family and a very spunky main character. 4 stars. A cozy fantasy that showed me that I do not like cozy fantasies because it was too slow and too low stakes. 3 stars. The synopsis makes this book out to be an epic dragon fantasy book, but actually it only takes place in literally one room and it's very boring. 2.5 stars. A creepy house invasion book that I read for the Literally Dead book club, but I can't really think of anything really good to say about it. It was a pretty meh book. 3.5 stars. An extremely anticipated book from Miss Emily Henry, but that was ultimately a huge letdown because I felt like the main characters had 0 chemistry. 3.5 stars. A surprisingly very middle of the road book from Holly Jackson and the plot was just a little bit too slow for me. 3.5 stars. A random thriller that I read on a plane in literally only 3 hours and the ending literally left me gagged at the end. 3 stars. A gothic historical fantasy that had a really good atmosphere and a fun plot, but I can't really think of anything right now, so obviously it didn't really stick with me. 4 stars. A cute cowboy romance and my first foray into Elsie Silver books, and it surprisingly was nice. 3.5 stars. A reread that is of course one of my favorite books ever and is leagues above the first one. 5 stars obviously. A really cute romance between a bodyguard and a pop star's sister-in-law. 4 stars. Another Frida McFadden thriller that was very entertaining and is honestly one of her better books. 3.5 stars. An anticipated release that had a really interesting premise, but ultimately it finished up too quickly for me based on what the characters went through. 3.25 stars. One of the oldest books on my TBR that I read for a video where I was reading the oldest books on my TBR, and it was surprisingly good for a book that I picked out at 16 in a random bookstore in San Francisco. 3.75 stars. A solid fantasy romance book between a witch and a witch hunter and had an interesting magic system. 4.25 stars. A book that is in multimedia form about a middle-aged man going on a search to figure out what happened to this dead girl who is the daughter of this elusive horror director, with a really interesting plot, but a plot that ended up meandering a lot. 3.5 stars. Another Literally Dead book club pick that has OCD rep, and I honestly can't really think of anything else beyond that. 3 stars. A third book that was not needed at all, 2 stars. A single dad nanny romance that ended up stealing my heart solely because of the 5-year-old kid, 4.5 stars. A really overhyped fantasy romance novel that is a little bit too much like its comp titles Red Queen and Hunger Games, 3.5 stars. An interesting start to a fantasy romance series with an interesting world, and I can definitely see the potential it has to grow even better, 3.5 stars. A really heart-wrenching story about a side character from Powerless that left me completely torn apart from the inside, and the author better sleep with one eye open at night, 4.5 stars. A really meandering plot with random scenes just to further their relationship, and an ending that had no explanation and made absolutely no sense, 3 stars. A new Riley Sager book, but its crime was just being boring and slow, 2 stars. A romance between a pop star and a grumpy baker, and that's honestly the only thing I can remember from that book, so it wasn't that great, 3 stars. A balloon on animal romance that was creative but also left me scarred for life, so 1 star. This is just a short story of a couple people that are attracted to pumpkin spice lattes, and it honestly was a little more tame than I was expecting, 1 star. This is the start of a series reread for me, and this book is always going to be 5 stars for me, so 5 stars. It had a lot more of a plot than I was expecting, but it was also really boring and honestly a lot more tame than I was looking from a fork romance, 1 star. Honestly, just kind of boring. Like, come on, you can do better than a cucumber being a dick, 1 star. Continuing my series reread and loving every second of it, 5 stars. Another Frida McFadden book that was honestly just okay, but the ending obviously gagged me, 3 stars. A reread that was a little bit too much like Carval for me, and the ending did not surprise me at all, which was a little bit disappointing, 3.5 stars. A lot more of a literary fiction than a mystery thriller. In my opinion, this book was completely mismarketed, 3 stars. Dark gothic spicy romantasy book that had an interesting premise but went on a little bit too long for me, but also I can't stop thinking about it, 4.5 stars. A middle of the road thriller with honestly not really a lot of big reveals, which I want, so 3 stars. Another Frida McFadden book, and this one was a big flop for me because the main character was dumb and everything else was boring and the ending was predictable, 2 stars. A stunning addition to the Ember world that I still think about so often, but I just wanted a little bit more depth to the characters, 4.5 stars. A book that I thought was going to be super action-packed, but it was almost very cozy fantasy-esque, and it was just very different than what I was expecting, 2.75 stars. A cozy fantasy story that was actually really cute, despite me saying earlier that I don't think cozy fantasy is for me, but the ending got just a little bit too cheesy and cute for me, 3.5 stars. A collection of Eras Tour photos and little reflections, very basic ones from Taylor from the tour, which would be a fun thing to look back on in a few years when I'm reminiscing the Eras Tour, 5 stars. The first of a spin-off continuation series where the focus was way too much on the games that I forgot about its characters, 2.5 stars. A boring domestic thriller that honestly wasn't even thrilling, and although the ending was something that I wasn't expecting, it just wasn't enough to end the book on a high note for me, 2.5 stars. Such a rich world with such beautiful writing, but the plot was just a little bit too slow for me, 4 stars. A really thought-provoking novel by a really anticipated author of mine that I really enjoyed, 4 stars. A really fast-paced YA thriller novel with so many little interesting tidbits of information, but the romance had absolutely no development at all, 3.75 stars. The sequel to The Naturals, which I actually really enjoyed, and the stakes got a lot higher, 4.25 stars. So yeah, that is all 62 books that I read in the year of 2024. I really hope I didn't miss one, but I had like a whole list written out. I feel like I probably missed at least one in there. But if not, these are all the books that I read last year. As you can see, not a lot of like great standout books for me. A lot of them were just middle of the road or just ones I don't remember much about or things like that. But yeah, I think it's a really fun way to wrap up the year in like a concise format. And I think I'm gonna do this every year from now on because it's also really fun to come up with like these little one-liners, like 1-sentence reviews of all these books. It was really fun for me, so I really enjoyed making this video too. But yeah, that is it for this video. Let me know down below what you think of this video format, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.